Good morning. So we're going to start just in a comfortable position, lying down. I'm going to stay seated because my voice projects much better that way. And also my earpiece sometimes falls out. So I suggest that you come to lying down on your mat. If you're doing the class from a chair, sit as comfortably as you can. So now it's all about comfort, and hopefully you'll keep this idea of comfort as you move through your practice today, not forcing anything, just exploring with great attention what your body is offering you today and where you need to be a little more careful and where you can be a little more carefree. So from your comfortable seat or lying down, close your eyes, bring your awareness to your breath. Because without our attention to our bodies and without our breath, we wouldn't be doing much of anything, never mind yoga. But we just need to have a certain level of attentivity, or attentiveness is probably better, to make sure that we honor our body as we go through class. I apologize for the kind of angled view. This time of year, I have some challenges with light, so I may have to actually move around a little bit to make sure that bright burst of sunshine, pretty though it is, doesn't obliterate your view. So as you lie here, just take notice if anything in the body calls out at you, like your leg, one of your legs is like, ow. So maybe you need to place it in a different way. Maybe you need to have your legs straight. Maybe you're more comfortable with your knees bent. Place your arms comfortably. Resist the urge to connect your hands and to have your hands on your body. If you can, just to take your arms by your side. If you're sitting, you could place your hands on your lap, palms up or palms down. So we can invite our arms really just to be quiet. And we can further notice, if we're touching, we'll notice some things, but without touching, it calls on our nervous system to be a little more attentive to the sensations of the body. Think of your breath, if you like, as a creek, a small creek. Maybe you're sitting next to it in the park, and you're watching that water flow. And it's going to flow differently depending on the water itself. If there's something in the water, if a tree branch fell in, if you live in Crestwood, we got a lot of tree branches around. Or so imagine that your breath, like water, sometimes can counter an obstruction. But the water will find its way, and so will your breath. You might have a blockage in the form of congestion in your nose, in your throat, a lot of pollen in the air, if you haven't noticed, and you might even hear in my voice some congestion. So just notice how the breath is moving today. Can you breathe freely through your nose? Can you take a breath in and out through your nose? Let your head be heavy if you're lying down. And just take a moment to notice your breath as it rolls in and as it rolls out. Stay present with that flow. And then when you're ready, bend your knees and place your feet parallel on your mat. We're going to be setting up for bridge pose in a moment. And before we start, I'll give you just some little movements to do. And if you're not on a mat today, you can adapt some of these movements while we're doing the bridging. So take your arms by your side with the palms down. And as you inhale, bring one arm up toward the ceiling and don't go past shoulder height if you have an injury. And then as you exhale, just place your arms down. And then easily inhale, lift the left arm up. And as you exhale, place that arm down. If you're lying down, inhale, extend your right leg, flex the ankle. And as you exhale, bend the knee. If you're sitting in a chair, you can reach your leg away from you. Just make sure you don't slide to the end of your chair. I know because I've done that. Good. And do that series again, just to start moving your limbs. This time as you inhale, as you take your arm up, maybe if you have more range of motion, you could reach the arm behind you, but don't force any movement. So you're going to do both arms, inhaling them either straight up to the ceiling or up toward your ear. And then pause. And then do your legs. Inhale, extend one leg. Notice if the legs comes to straight or if it needs to be a little bent. And then finally, for those of you who are going to proceed with bridge, extend the other leg and bring that back to center. So Z told me that last week you concentrated a lot on shoulders. So I have planned a lot of things that focus a little bit on the hips. So that's where we are today. So with your arms down by your side, find the floor and the mat underneath your arms. Now spin your arms so your palms are facing your hips. So we're starting to externally rotate the arms, and then roll your arms. So the back of your hand, the palm is looking forward on the mat, the back of the hand is on the mat. Don't force the whole back of the hand down. The thumb side of my hand doesn't come down. Now we have really, really externally opened in the upper arms, and that will create more space in the upper chest. If it's too much, relax your arms a little bit. Now from here, bridgers, from your elbow creases to your fingertips, turn that part of the arm down. So we're leaving the spaciousness in the collarbones. In fact, let's take a nice breath and focus our breath on the upper chest. Breathe into those upper lungs without force. Just notice the expansion you have up there. Now, bring the inner edges of your feet together and bring your thighs together. This isn't how we do bridge normally, typically. We're going to do a few variations of bridge, sort of bringing in different muscle groups to support the pose. So the inner edges of the feet together and the heels fairly close to your bum. And this bridge, you're not going to aim to lift up very high, and you may not want to. Press your arms down, and as you inhale, squeeze your outer hips toward the midline, squeeze your butt, and lift up just a little bit. And as you exhale, lengthen your spine as you place it down. So that's just noticing how, for me, quite challenging because we can't use all of our muscles to do the lift in bridge with that foot position. So now take your feet to inner hip distance apart. If you have a block, you can place the block in between your upper thighs. A pillow would also work. And the tool here, the block, is only to remind you to engage your legs, because if we don't engage our legs, sometimes when we're doing bridge, the knees come up out. So we want to keep the ankles and the knees integrated and the knees and the hips integrated. So find that comfortable arm position. If you have another arm position that you do with another teacher, that's fine. Just give a little hug to the block. You're not trying to pulverize the block. Think about the outer hips and the outer thighs gently drawing toward each other, but not touching, because you want to keep a block distance between them. Find the little toe, the big toe, the sides of your foot. And as you inhale, breathe your hips up into bridge. And you might notice here, you might feel that you could feel the opening in the front of the hips. And then firm up your glutes, especially the lowest part of the glute, right near the back of the thigh. Take another breath here. And then as you exhale with control, lower down. If you like, do one more like that. Same foot width with the prop there. We inhale into bridge and we exhale out. Good. Now, if you're using a prop, remove the prop, take that to the side, and notice your legs might feel a little tingly because you were working them. Take your feet a smidgen wider, maybe take your heels out a little bit, and then move your forefoot to catch up with your heel. So you should ideally still not be as wide as the outer edges of your mat. You may want to alter your arm position here. One way to alter that is to bend the elbows. These I call robot arms, and press your forearms down. I find this is more comfortable for me and it gives me more control. And keeping the knees aligned, don't let them go out toward the outer ankles or in toward the inner ankles. Lift up into bridge again. If you feel that you'd like to stay for a breath in bridge, that's fine. Or exhale and come down right away. Land your spine on the mat, and then you can come right back into it or pause in between. Inhale. Try and keep your feet light. A lot of times in yoga, we say push into your feet, which is fine. We do have to push into our feet, but we'd rather work a lot of places in the body, not just the lower legs. So we want to use our hips here and our tushy. And then come down, rest your hands by your side on your belly. Let your muscles go soft. So we don't want to have our muscles clenching and gripping a lot, and we don't want to feel a very strong action from our muscles throughout the entire class. We need moments of calm. So for the last bridge, take your feet wide toward the outer edges of your mat. And as you start taking your feet as wide as your hips or wider than your hips, the feet are probably going to turn out a little bit because our legs are on an angle. Find the inner edge of the foot and the outer edge of the foot. Keep that knitted down. Choose your arm position, arms down by your side or robot arms. You want to feel a nice connectivity with your upper arms to the mat, spaciousness around the collarbones and the breastbone. And when you're ready, inhale, lift up into bridge. So there's a few things you can think about here. One, would you rather inhale up and exhale down? Do you feel comfortable holding the bridge? So don't force the holding. Feel free to come down and rest. A little bit of work in a lot of places. So our thighs are stretching. We want to be hugging the lower part of our glutes. We want to be hugging the outer edges of the thighs. Think about the calves weighting down toward the ankles. And then when you're ready, if you're not down yet, lower your spine down, rest your knees together, hands on your belly or by your side, and just pause. And if you like to release your back, you can just take your knees out a little bit from side to side, like a little windshield wiper. Soft and slow. The next time your knees come back to center, pause there. Bring your feet to parallel, shift your hips to one side and roll toward the other side, and moving very slowly and mindfully, make your way to sitting. So you can go nice and slow, using your arms to help you sit up. As you come up to sitting, if you're on the mat, you might find that a blanket under your hips will help you sit tall. You do not have to sit cross-legged, so you want to do what's right for you. I'm going to sit cross-legged. If you sit cross-legged, we're going to be twisting to the right, so you might want to put your right leg in the front. Take your arms down by your side. If you're using a chair, you can bring them to the outer edges of your chair. And just pause in this new orientation if you were on the mat. So now you've kind of changed your orientation a little bit. So just take a moment here, just sitting. Good. And then pick up your left hand and bring it over to your right thigh. For the most support, you can take your right arm and bring it behind you or hold on to the chair right from the start of the twist. If you feel you have a lot of core support and you don't need that arm behind you till you twist, you could take your right arm up by your ear. Just make sure when you do that, you don't end up collapsing the front of the chest. Inhale here. And as you exhale, take a small twist from your collarbones, from your breastbone toward the right. And then once you've done the twist, if you hadn't planted your right arm down, do that now. And take a few breaths here in the twist. Soften where you can soften. Relax your shoulders. Inhale. Remember to think about length as you inhale. And as you exhale, if you like, you can draw the tummy in just a little bit, a little hug, not a squeeze. We're going to exit the twist on an inhale. And again, you could keep your arms low for the most support. If you have a lot of core support and stability, you could float your arms up as you inhale and come forward, and then place your arms down. For those of you sitting cross-legged, just to make sure we don't habitually stay in the same place, just cross with your other leg in front. Good. Pick up your right hand, bring it over to your left leg. Take your right hand to left leg. Your left arm can either come behind you and start the support right from the start, or inhale with the arm up. And as you exhale, wrap your collarbones and your breastbone toward the second side, toward your left. And then when you get there, do bring that arm down and use your fingertips or your hand to support your seat, to keep your spine upright. And notice when you twist it, if it was more about turning the head. Ideally, we don't want to initiate our twist from the neck because it tends over time. The neck isn't so happy with that. So we want to initiate the twist from the upper chest and then kind of let the head kind of glide into place. So don't force your head to turn any more than it feels natural. If you feel resistance, back off that a little bit. When you inhale and come out of the pose, you can keep your arms down for the most support, or for more challenge, you can bring your arms up. Rest your arms down by your side. And if you were sitting cross-legged, extend your legs out just so you can come to kind of a neutral knee for a moment, and you can paddle your legs a little bit. We're going to be doing some lunges, and we'll also be doing optional down dog. So just know that with any pose, no matter what injury or challenge you might have, you can always skip over that and come back to something that is appropriate for your body and that you're familiar with, because we're not live. We were live, but we're not in person. So I can't come around and help you. So you want to make sure you take extra good care of yourself. So if you're on your mat, you can come to tabletop position. You can do a few cat-cows. I'm going to suggest a modified cat-cow and a regular cat-cow, which you can certainly do sitting. You're doing more of an arching and a back bend. And this is the traditional one. So this is your cat-cow, and you're deeply rounding the spine, which can feel great, bringing the forehead toward the pubic bone. But it's not really a great move if your upper back is been told that you have more of a curve in your upper back than is ideal, or if you've been told you have osteopenia, you don't really want to round your upper back. It's not advisable. So another way of doing cat-cow is to inhale. That part's the same. You take a little back bend from crown to tail. But as you exhale, you come to neutral spine and you dip your hips back toward your knees. So you're going more from length, from armpits to hips. And to modify this in a chair, you could just sit in neutral and take your arms up by your ears and focus on the length between your armpits and the same side hips. Inhaling into your cow, mooing is optional. Exhaling into your cat, or this modified cat, it's like a kitten, bringing the hips back toward the heels, stretching the sides of your body long. So you choose what feels best for you and what you're most familiar with. And then just to remind you that we have child's pose in our back pocket for those of you who are on the mat. So if we're doing something that is not working for you, or if you just need a rest, you can always come to child's pose. And if you're sitting on a chair, I trust you also have you need your go-to rest pose. So you could do child's pose with your knees wide, your knees together. Because my head is up, because I'm talking to you and glancing at the screen, I'm not doing my neck any favor. So make sure you keep your head dropped down and the back of your neck long. Great. So when you're ready, if you're itching to do a downward facing dog, you can certainly do one now. You can inhale and take a little small back bend, and then exhale, tuck your toes, lift up and slide your hips back. Take 1 or 2 breaths here. Stay present in your body. Notice if the weight is spilling more toward one side of the body. If you can counter that, great. If the weight is more to your feet or more to your hands, notice that. And then gently place your knees back down and take your right foot forward into a lunge. So you can hold on to something if you need to. I sometimes use my handy windowsill. You also might want to take padding under your back knee. And so your right foot is forward. You might need to have, it depends on a number of factors, support underneath your hands. So you can take support underneath your hands. They can be whatever height you need, but try not to do this deep rounding of the spine that we sometimes do to get closer. You want to keep that spine nice and long and lifted. So those are that option. If you can, lengthen up. Again, you can do this with a hand on a prop, on a wall. The nice thing about being at home, we actually have more props than we think. We have walls, we have chairs. A lunge is a hip opener. Now, the right leg is forward. So with the right leg forward, chances are the right hip has lifted up a little higher than the left. So take your hand to your outer right hip and guide your right hip down a little bit. And you might feel, oh, now my hips feel more even. And that feels really good. You could stay right here. You could hold on with your other hand, or you could take your left arm up if you like. Inhale here. And as you exhale, spin your left palm forward, fold forward, take your right hand down, slide your right knee back. Before we change sides, you might want to lift one leg and then the other to get the pressure off your knees, or you can roll your wrists, or you could do both of those things, not at the same time. And then when you're ready, take your left foot forward. Again, you might need padding under the back knee. You might need support to lift up. You might need your hands on blocks. When you come to a position that feels comfortable for you, see if you can find evenness from your left hip to your right. With the left hip forward, chances are that hip's going to be higher. So you may want to slide your hand, your thumb into the hip crease, and just kind of manually drop that left hip down and see if that feels good. And it might feel really, really good because you might have just slided your hips into an even position. And then if it feels okay, as you inhale, take your right arm up, lift and lengthen the chest. Try not to pop the ribs. I caught myself doing a little rib popping, so I'm pulling my ribs in, keeping the back, my upper back calm. Turn your palm forward. As you exhale, reach your hand down and then add your left hand down and then slide your left foot back. And again, yogi's choice. You might want to do some cat cowing here, or you might want to do some downward facing dog, whatever feels right for you. Take a breath or two here. And then when you're ready, we're going to come to standing. So for those of you in down dog, if you're accustomed to walking your feet toward your hands, you can do that. Or you can come through lunge, standing on your knees, take a foot forward. You can hold on to your windowsill if you like, and come to standing. Shake it out a little bit. So now whether you were in a chair or on the mat, we're all meeting in the same place. So that's good. So stand tall, look down at your feet. I know you know where your feet are, but set them parallel. Outer edge is nice and straight, a little bit of distance in between your feet. Take your arms by your side. Take them out in a slight A-frame, just to energize your arms away from the body. And then let your arms relax. And you might find that if you have a tendency, like your hands like suction right to your body, if you do this little adjustment first, you keep a little space between your arms and your hips. If you like, close your eyes just to kind of dial into your nervous system and to ask your nervous system to notice where you are in space without looking around you. If that makes you uncomfortable, by all means, keep your eyes open. Join your hands to the heart center. Inhale a breath here. As you exhale, release your arms. As you breathe, bring your arms halfway up and pause. Exhale, bend your elbows. Now you have like this right angle shape. Join your hands together, hands back to the heart center. Pause here. Notice if you're doing a lot of work standing. See if you can soften your bottom a little bit and soften your hips, because we're going to firm them up for some movements, but we also want to give those muscles a chance to relax. So just nice and easy. Inhale, exhale, release your arms. Inhale, take your arms either half up or all the way up. I apologize, my arms are disappearing up there. And then wherever your arms are, join the hands together. Exhale the hands to the heart center and release your arms down. So bring your hands somewhere on your hips or thighs and see if you can kind of massage a little bit and to keep everything soft. So you're standing with everything soft. Now let's do the opposite. Let's add a little hip. Think about energizing your outer hips toward the midline. So we're not trying to physically move our legs closer, but we're squeezing. So we're activating the side hip and the lowest part of your glutes. So now firm all that up, squeeze it in, and just notice the difference. First of all, you're working more, so that might lift you up a little bit more. But we want to go through class and life with this much gripping. And now soften. Soften your outer hips, soften your glutes, and walk your feet wide for Virabhadrasana or Warrior Two. So we do different things with our legs, and therefore we're doing different things with our hips in Virabhadrasana 2. So starting with your right leg, from where the thigh bone connects into the hip socket, spin the right leg out. And the most you want to turn it out, we don't want to go as far as we can, because if you have really movable hips, you could turn your leg out so much that your toes are looking almost not straight back behind you, but they're looking on an angle behind you. We don't want that. So you might find that your second toe is looking to the wall opposite you. You might find that that much of a turnout doesn't suit you, and the turnout of your leg might be a little smaller. So just work with what you got, and then come to your left leg and rotate that leg in. You could do that by lifting the heel, sliding the forefoot to the left, and then taking the foot out. So both feet are kind of peeking over to the same side, but in different ways. Knit your hands to your hips and let your hips be soft. Take a breath there. Now give that little bit of squeezing of the side glutes, the side hip and the side glutes. Draw your hands together. Inhale and exhale. Keeping a little bit of that solidity in the hips. Inhale, take the arms up, and as you exhale, Bend your right knee, taking your arms wide. You can turn your gaze to the right if you like. You can rest your arms down. You can take the arms to your hips. The right hip is opening, the right thigh is externally rotating. The left leg is internally rotating, but the hips are opening in both ways. And the hips are opening the same, a little different from the thighs. You can soften up your glute a little bit if you feel like you're doing a little too much action there. Let that go a little softer. And as you inhale, we do want support from our hips, so it's a little less work on the knee as we straighten. Hands together, hands to the heart center, parallel the feet. Before you do the second side, depending on the stickiness of your mat and depending on how you feel, you might find, whoa, I felt I was slipping out to the side. Or you may feel, I didn't really have enough room to move and bend my knee. So you might want to go wider or a little narrower. Spin your left leg out, a comfortable turnout of the left leg, and that's the femur bone rotating in the hip socket, and turn your right leg in. Both legs straight, but if you have knees that need to soften a little bit, that's fine. If you have some knee injury and you have some other rules you need to follow. Inhale, bring your arms up this time, or again, have them on your hips if you prefer. Exhale, Virabhadrasana to second side. So importantly, and again, I can't see most of you and I can't see well enough from back here, we don't want our knee over our toes. Oh, that's painful. So we want our knee over our ankle, or it could be a little behind it. It doesn't have to be a huge bend. Your arms don't have to stay out. You can have them on your hips, but we do want to have some degree of firmness in the pelvic girdle, the hips, the upper thighs, and the sitting and the tush, so that we're not putting a lot of pressure on the knees and the ankles. They have enough pressure just from our weight, so we don't want to add to that. And then when you're ready to come out, and always come out sooner if you need to, as you inhale, find your feet underneath you, the firmness of your pelvic girdle, and slowly straighten your leg with control, and then slowly slide your hands down to your heart center. Release your hands, parallel your feet, and pause. Take a breath here. And then toe heel your feet, or if you're really springy, you can hop your feet together if that works for you. And come back to Tadasana. Now notice, after doing just that one pose, my legs feel completely different. Let your body go soft. So use just enough energy you need to stand. And if you like, to challenge your nervous system, close your eyes and take a breath here. And you might notice that your hips and your butt don't want to let go. They just want to always grip. So let them go a little soft here, because we're going to be gripping them in a moment for tree pose. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So now for tree pose, remember that if you need to hold on to something, chair, wall, whatever works, set your feet parallel. And when you're ready, just lift your left heel up, so the forefoot is on the floor. So already we're shifting weight onto the other leg. Now lift the forefoot of the other leg off the floor. So I don't know if you can see, you don't have to look, but my foot's about an inch above the floor. So I'm already telling my standing leg it's going to have to work, right? And then place your right foot down. So in tree pose, we do want to bring a little bit of that energy to the hips. So soft hips, soft thighs versus squeezing. We want a little squeeze here. So lift your right heel again, and this time spin your right leg out. And again, same as with Warrior Two, which we just did, you might find that your knee is looking to the wall on your right. You might find that your knee is looking midway between forward and your right. So wherever it goes, it goes. And then you can place your heel against your standing leg, or pick the foot up on your shin. If you have a very experienced yoga practice and you're not wearing leggings, because the foot will slide right down, you can pick up the foot and bring it to your inner thigh. Now, think of a gentle meeting between your straight leg and your bent leg foot. So kind of draw that in toward the midline. And then add a little zest to the thighs. Think about squeezing the hips toward each other, gently squeezing, as if you had a block there, squeezing the hips toward the midline, firming your butt cheeks, and then if you like, grow some branches. Make sure your low back is calm. If you feel like your low back is arching, lengthen your tail down and maybe lift your pubic bone up a little bit to counter that activity. Your foot can stay on the floor, or it can be off the floor, whatever works for you. And again, if you're squeezing so hard that your teeth are gripping, that's a little too much muscular activation. But if, I'm sure none of you are, but if you're really not paying attention, you're just putting your limbs in place without asking the muscles to work for you, then your pose will not only be unstable, but you might not really get so much benefit from it. And then when you're ready, join your hands together, draw your hands down, release the foot, turn your knee forward, come back to Tadasana, release your arms. We build strength too. So when we do more than I do, or you can come out of it right away. So just shake your legs out a little bit here before we do the second side. You do a little boy band maneuver and take your legs out to the side, shake your shoulders out, just shake whatever you want to shake. And then come back to Tadasana, basically your mountain. Before we do the second side of tree, come back to your mountain, relax your arms by your side, and use only the energy you need to stand up. So you don't need super firm glutes, so you don't need to suck your belly in to stand up. Just find lift and length and calmness. Just like think about when you see a picture of a mountain, or if you're fortunate and you actually see a mountain itself, think about how that makes you feel. What attracts you? Is it the grandeur? Is it the majesty? Is it the peacefulness? See if you can find a little bit of that. And then we're going to prepare for tree on the second side. Float your left heel up. That's already going to shift weight to your right leg. And then to give the right leg a little more cue of what's coming, lift the forefoot. So your foot is barely off the floor. You're standing on one leg. It's great to do balance challenges like this. You might be a little shaky. And then place your foot down and pause. Take a breath here. And then again, pick up your left heel. Now for tree, you're going to externally rotate the left leg, just like you did in Warrior Two. And just like we did in Warrior Two, your turnout might be knee looking toward the wall. And I stress this because you're not trying to force your leg into any position. Connect the heel of your foot to your standing leg. If you like, bring the whole foot to the standing leg below the knee, or bring the whole foot to the standing leg above the knee, not on the knee. Hold on to something with one or both hands. And now we want a little firmness, a little support from not just our core, but from our pelvic girdle, which could be considered part of our core. So you want a lot of stability here, squeezing the hips gently toward the midline, even as one hip is externally rotated and one is in neutral. If you like, you can grow branches. Feel free to come out sooner rather than later. Some days I find, I can stay here for a long time. Not that that's not a really long time, and some days my tree is like very, very wobbly, like as if there was a big wind in my house. So just dial into what your body is interested in doing and capable of doing right now, not a minute from now, not yesterday, not last week. And then when you're ready, find your hands, draw them down to your heart. Pick the foot off the standing leg, turn the knee forward, and again, widen your feet and shake it out a little bit. Give it a nice, yummy shake out, and then come back to standing, just standing in Tadasana. If you like, just for a moment, one breath, close your eyes, soften your body, notice how your legs feel, and then reorient yourself so you're on the length of your mat. We're going to do some forward bending. And I ask you to keep your spine long rather than rounding. Take your hands by your side without gripping. And as you inhale, glide your arms up, forward and up if that feels okay. If you'd like to add a little different kind of balance, float your heels up for a second and do a toe stand if that works for you. As you exhale, land your toes back on the mat, bend your elbows, hands to your hips, hinging at the hips. So now working in the front of the hips, fold forward. Forward could mean your shoulders are higher than your hips. Maybe you have flexibility that your body allows you to come to an upside down L shape, Ardha Uttanasana, half forward bend. Hands on your thighs with the palms on the thighs here. If you notice that your thighs are really soft and your knees are kind of sagging, just activate your thighs just a little teeny bit to pull those kneecaps up a little bit. Lengthen your spine. So feel that your spine is as long in the front as it is in the back. Keep your head in line with your spine. Sometimes I lift mine because I'm keeping my earpiece in. When you're ready to release, as you inhale, you can glide your arms up your body, or you can reverse your swan dive. Take your arms out wide, whatever feels right. And when you get there, you can join your hands together overhead. Exhale the hands to the heart center. Take a full breath in and a full breath out. And let's do one more like that. Check in with your feet. Your feet should be parallel. Legs are pretty soft to start. Hands on your thighs with the palms on the thighs here. Inhale here, exhale, release your arms. As you inhale, breathe your arms forward or up, or keep them on your body. As you exhale, keep your hands on your body or swan dive and find the forward bend that is appropriate for you. Your second one might be a little lower, maybe not. Think about just a little activity in your hips here. Don't go crazy with squeezing your hips or butt here, but you might find a little support from there. You can, if you like, place your hands on the fronts of your thighs and push your hands into your thighs, but also push your thighs back into your hands. And you might find that helps to grow your spine long and the rib cage moves a little bit further away from the hips. Relax your toes, firm your legs, relax your jaw. As you inhale, reverse your swan dive, come all the way up, unhinging the hips, hands together, hands to the heart, arms by your side. We're going to come back to the mat onto our tummy for Cobra. On the way there, you may want to do down dog. If you feel like you just want to come down to your mat, come to child's pose and rest, choose that pathway and we'll meet on the belly for Cobra. If you'd like to come down through downward facing dog and lunge, I'll take you through that pathway, standing in about the middle of your mat. Inhale a breath here. Exhale, release your arms. Inhale, breathe your arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Soften your knees, but firm the hips. And you can bring your hands down and stroll your feet back. And again, this is if it feels appropriate for you. Come to your downward facing dog. Let your heels drip down to the mat. Firm your arms. Relax your neck. And then down doggers. When you're ready, gently place your knees down and come onto your tummy for Cobra. You might find that if you wear glasses, you need to take them off for this. If you have a lot of sensitivity in the front of your hips, some people like to have a thin layer of padding underneath the hip bones. So before you come to Cobra, let's come to Crocodile. I always forget that this has a name. This feels like a rest position, and it is. Stack your forearms and place your head on your forearms. I'm going to lift my head to talk, but you're going to keep your head like this. And let your body be soft. It gets its name from, when a crocodile's in the water, the head's kind of sticking up. So that's why our head is a little higher here. So if you're not doing Cobra today, if you have back injury, then you can stay in your peaceful crocodile. Just be a nice crocodile, a well-behaved one. Now, if you want to transition to Cobra, take your arms down by your side with your palms down, your fingertips roughly in line with the tops of your shoulders. If you have wrist injury, or if you have like a pin in the wrist, you can also just do the pose with the forearms down. That also works. Bow your forehead down. Again, my head is lifted to talk. Bow your forehead down, neck long. Now, bring your awareness to your right leg. Find your right toes and see if you can feel just about every toe on the mat or the floor. If I shifted my feet on the floor. So you want to have the toenails down on the right leg and then activate the left leg. Press those toenails down. Now, think about your pubic bone coming slightly forward and your tail reaching back behind you, kind of in the center of your heels, because we want our spine to be very long here. And we almost want to be in a little bit of a tucked pelvis to make sure we don't overarch in the low back. When you're ready, as you inhale, float your collarbones, the top of your breastbone up, take the head with you, keep the legs firm but reaching long. Imagine you're reaching your legs away from you. The touch from your forearms and or your hand should be so light that you should be able to lift them off the ground without coming down lower. If you're coming down lower, that means, oh, okay, I was using a little arm strength here. Now from here, turn your head to your left, lower your right ear down, let your arms go soft, let your legs go soft. On the next round of Cobras, we're going to add a leg move to help strengthen the hamstrings. And the hamstrings, are in a way related, of course, to the hips and the pelvis. So as you inhale, lift up into a small Cobra first. Keep your gaze down. Now find your right leg. Think about lengthening the right leg. And from your thigh, think about lifting the right leg up an inch. And you do need to firm your outer hip here. Both hips are firm, squeezing toward each other, not maximum squeeze. You don't want to make it a 10, make it like a 6 or a 5, especially if you have sciatica. You don't want to do too much squeezing. This could go either way. Z, sometimes this pose feels good for sciatica, sometimes it doesn't. And then when you're ready, lower your right leg down and turn your head to look toward your right. We had to turn to the left before, right? Yeah, so turn it to the right and pause. You can relax your arms, take a breath. Firm up your legs now, press your toenails down. Lengthen your pubic bone forward, your feet backward. Inhale, lift up into small cobra. You can even keep it smaller than your usual small cobra. Press the right leg down, open up the hip, present the hip toward the floor as you lift the left leg up. And you might find that one leg barely lifts at all, or that both legs barely lift at all. Take another breath here. And then when you're ready, lower that left leg down, come back to crocodile. Get soft. Remember Richard Simmons used to say, some of you are probably too young, but he used to say mushy tushies. So I took that to heart, obviously, because mine's very mushy, but let your tushy be very, very mushy here. And then if you like, bend the knees and sway your lower legs from side to side. Nice and easy. If you'd like to do one more cobra, you might have had enough back bending for the morning. If you'd like to do one more cobra, you could do one more cobra, or you can do locust pose, which would involve the lifting of both legs. So I'll demonstrate and do locust with you. So you can do it with the same arms as cobra if you like that. Alternatively, take your arms down by your side with the palms down, but lift the fronts of your shoulders up, not your head. Your head should be down like this, but where we want to have lift in the front of our shoulders. And then lengthen and lift the head from your butt cheeks a little bit. You can stay right here. You can stay in cobra, or you can rest in child's if you like. See if you can let both legs come up. Reach your legs long, but make sure you're not feeling arch in the low back. Sometimes what I do is I lift my hands up when my arms are out in the A-frame, put them down again, and push through my fingertips to help me get a little more length in the spine. And then when you're ready, again, lower everything down and come to crocodile. And if you like, I don't think this is very crocodile-ish, but you can bend your knees and swish your tail in the air. When you're ready, you're going to ease over to your side and come back to sitting for another twist. Take your time, pause, notice how you feel. If you're sitting in a chair, you can repeat the same twist that we did in the beginning of class. If you're sitting in a chair, you could also turn sideways. If some of you are chair yogis, you've probably done that where you turn sideways in the chair. So your knees aren't on the front of the chair, they're on the side, and you put your back forearm on the back of the chair, and you twist toward the back of your chair. For the yogis on the mat, take padding underneath your tush if that feels useful to help you sit nice and tall. And then when you're ready, bend your right knee, place your hands on the right shin and use that to sit nice and tall. Check out your left leg. We don't want it completely hanging out, but we don't want to be super squeezy with the leg here. Just enough activity to keep the leg alert. Keep your left hand on your right leg. You could start with your right hand behind you and keep it that way, or you could inhale the arm up, and as you exhale, take your twist. So you're twisting toward your right, toward your bent leg. If the leg wants to roll out, see if you can resist that. You can move your right foot further out to the right side of your mat, which is probably a little more preferable to letting the knee come out of line here in the pose. You want to keep both knees toward the midline. Take one more breath here. Now let's make it 2 more breaths. When you're ready to come out of the twist, Remember that you can have both arms up. That puts more, you have to kind of make sure that your core will support that, because we want to feel that our back is really supported. Or you can come out with the arms low, which I'm going to do on this side. So you can just roll forward, unwind your twist, pause, take a breath here, slide your right leg out straight. You may want to flop your legs out and in, or wiggle your toes, do something in between. And then when you're ready, second side, bend your left leg. The heel is comfortably close to you. Sometimes I get asked that. Maybe your foot's going to be pretty low, lower than your knee. That's fine. More important than how far or close your heel is to your body is that we resist this, which if I wasn't thinking, I'd be here in this rounded spine. We want to have long uplifted spine. We want to twist with our spine really, really very long. And then both hands on the leg to start, and find your balance there, equal weight on both hips. And then keep your right hand on your left leg. Inhale your arm up or not. And as you exhale, spiral your spine, your upper spine. So it's your shoulder girdle that leads the twist. And then you can add the head. And if you do a lot of twists, and we did do a twist in class earlier, if when you're taking your few breaths in your twist, if you feel you want a twist a little bit more, don't push it. Just inhale to lengthen. And as you exhale, see if you can find maybe a little more wrapping from your rib cage, your upper ribs, like maybe where the bra line is. If you do a class where you do a lot of twists, you'll be using a lot of ab work here. We are using our abdominals to create the twist, no matter what. Take one more breath here. And then as you inhale, both arms up, no arms up, whatever works for you. Bring your hands down, extend your left leg straight, flop your legs out a little bit, roll them in and out, and find your strap. We're going to come to lying on the mat. We're going to finish up there with some activity, including some nice stretches for the legs and hips with the strap. But mostly gather everything now that you want to have for Shavasana, so it's there for you. So if you want to add a blanket or a pillow, just have that within reach. And come to lying on your mat. Take a moment to notice if you remember what your body felt like on the mat when you started the class. Notice what it feels like now. You may want to take your knees feet wide and rest your knees together. That's pretty much the most relaxing, neutral position to be in, other than Shavasana, of course. Just notice how your back meets the mat and let your muscles be really soft here. So if you think of your bones as like one of those little cocktail frankfurters, where the frankfurter's in the middle and there's that little like bun wrapped around it. So imagine that the bun, your muscles that wrap around your bones, let your bun, not your buns, your frankfurter bun be really, really soft. Because it doesn't need to move your legs, right? It doesn't need to move your butt or your arms. So just be really, really mushy. And then when you're ready, bring your feet together. If you do this sitting in a chair, by the way, when you extend your leg forward, this is just for people on a chair, don't lift your leg up. Have the back of your thigh supported on the chair. So draw your right leg toward you and take the strap around the sole of the foot. You can have it a little above the arch, like the top of the arch or the bottom. Try not to have it dead center. And extend your leg up to the ceiling. If you're sitting in a chair, you're reaching it forward. It does not have to be straight overhead. It could be a little forward. That's fine. But make sure of two things: that you're not straining your shoulders to reach up higher on the strap. The strap or the tie is just a tool. If you're on the mat, you can keep the left knee bent. If you can control the left leg, meaning that it doesn't get floppy, you can extend your left leg out too and stretch your legs in two directions. Take a look at your foot. Notice if the foot's listing toward the big toe side and the pinky toe side, and even out those two sides of your foot. That will be nice. If you're lying down, and if you're sitting, make sure your spine is long. If you're lying down, make sure you can feel that rib cage, the back of your shoulder girdle on the mat, that you're not hunching it up. Now, from here, take both ends of the strap or tie to your right hand. Spin your right leg out just a fraction. This is the same kind of turnout we did in Warrior Two and Tree Pose. And if your hip doesn't have that action, keep the toes looking back behind you. Now, make sure your left hip stays down, either on the chair or on the mat. Don't let your left hip fly up as you take your right leg out a little toward the right. If you start taking your right leg out and you find the left hip flying up, you've gone too far. In fact, rest your palm on your left hip and just keep it anchored. Depending on how where your leg ends up, you might find that you can get your right forearm to the floor. If you like, turn your head away from your right leg, take a breath there. So one of the things we're doing here is we're stretching the inner thigh. We want to give our thighs a break after all that squeezing and stuff we did. Now breathe your nose and leg back to center. Pass the ends of the strap or tie. Be careful if you have a buckle, because I have hit myself in the face with the buckle. Take the strap over to your left hand. Now bend the knee a little bit. Bend your right knee a little bit. Knit your thumb into your left hip crease. Inhale a breath here, and as you exhale, stretch your right leg to the left without lifting that butt cheek. And this is one of those stretches that Z had mentioned about sciatica. This can be great for sciatica because it stretches all the muscles in the glutes and in the outer thigh, but some people have a different response to it. It's kind of like an individual basis, I find, with what helps with sciatica in yoga and what doesn't. Though there are some things that definitely don't help. But what does can vary. Take another breath here, and then bring your leg back up to vertical. Bend the knee, remove the strap, place your right foot down, and then stretch your right leg out straight. Even if your left knee was bent the whole time, just stretch your right leg out straight and pause. And then bend the right knee. Now we're going to do the same routine on the second side. Extend the left leg up, take the strap either toward the top of the arch or the bottom. Extend your left leg up. Your right leg could be bent or straight on the mat, whichever feels good. Your left leg does not have to be straight. We're not trying to hug anything. We're just trying to create length. And we're not trying to force a stretch either. That's why you bend your knee if you need to. Make sure your arms are plugged into the shoulder sockets. Most important, or this is a very important thing anyway, notice if your foot is tipped to one side. Typically the big toe is tipped inward. And if that's the case, press into the big toe side of your foot and pull into the pinky toe side of the foot. You can even use the strap to pull that pinky toe side down. And this helps counters the imbalance that we all have imbalances in our body, and that's a very common one. And just notice what stretch you feel here. Keep the breath flowing. If the breath is restricted, you're probably pushing or exaggerating. Don't force the leg to straight position. And now I'm going to do the second piece. Take both ends of the strap to the same side hand, to your left hand. Turn your left leg out just a smidgen so you're already in a small external rotation. Take your right hand to your right hip as you stretch your left leg to the left. Bend the knee if you need to. My leg's going to get stuck on my windowsill here, so I have a free prop. The right leg could either be bent or straight, both hips down. Sideways long on the right side and on the left side. You feel overstretching in your left inner thigh, you've gone too far. You want to dial it back a little bit. One more breath here. And then breathe your left leg back to center. Last piece, take both ends of the strap to your right hand. Anchor your left hip down with your left hand. Bend the knee a little bit. And a very small movement here. Take your left leg over toward the right until you get a very gentle and very tolerable stretch in your outer leg. Maybe you'll feel it there. Maybe you'll feel it in the butt. Wherever you're tighter, you might feel it there. If you like, you could turn your head away from the leg. So turn your head to the left shoulder as your left leg goes to the right. Relax your jaw. Relax your feet. Take one more breath here. If you turn your head, bring your head back to center. Bring the heel back in line with your hip. Remove the strap. Make sure you don't hit yourself in the face, which I've also done. Bend your knee and place your feet down. Before you come to Shavasana, you may want to hug your thighs into your chest. If you have like a go-to kind of pose that you feel you really need to do before Shavasana, you can do that. Or maybe say, I don't really need to do that. I'm just going to come to Shavasana if I feel good enough to do that. So sometimes you can question your habits too, so you can find new pathways. For Shavasana, make sure you are as comfortable as you can be on your mat or on the chair. Since you're practicing at home, you can move over to a couch if you have one handy. Just make sure you're as comfy and cozy as you can be. Wrap a blanket around you if you feel chilly. Sometimes we stop moving, even on a warm day, we feel a little chilled. Close your eyes like soft curtains and let go wherever you can. So come back to that really, really soft Frankfurter roll. Let your bones be heavy. Let your muscles and tissues be soft. Release your judgment and surrender to stillness. If you feel at any time you need to shift for Shavasana, if one leg falls asleep or your legs are straight and you think maybe they'd be more comfortable bent, do whatever adjustment you need to do to stay comfortable. Don't force yourself to stay in one position. Let your breath flow just like water, the water finding its way, just like the creek as the water flows along. Maybe it encounters a log, some leaves, but still keeps on flowing smooth and steady. Because you're practicing at home, you don't have to leave the library at any time, so you can stay in Shavasana for as long as you like and give yourself a really wonderful gift of stillness and quiet this morning. But as our class time itself draws to a close, bring your awareness back to your breath. You may want to sigh or yawn. Bring your awareness back into your fingertips and your toes. If you'd like to stretch or yawn or sigh, do that. If you'd like to conclude your practice sitting, bend your knees, land your feet lightly on the mat, ease over to your side, and take at least 1 or 2 breaths there until you reorient yourself to a seated position and choose a comfortable seat. Take that padding underneath you. Don't cross your legs if it's not comfortable. Lean against a piece of furniture if you're at home, if you like a little support. And if you like, join your hands to your heart center. Lift your heart to your hands and bow your head. Thank your body for all it offers you. Honor your heart for its goodness, your muscles for their physical strength, and your spirit for your inner strength. Namaste. Thank you so much.